Alright, so hopefully this gives you guys a good fixing of two things that seem to be popping up regularly. One, the love for the Invincible videos. They're getting a lot of support, so I appreciate the views. I appreciate the love and the comments, so we'll keep it rolling. And we'll add more to it today. But we're also adding MCU stuff. I get a lot of MCU scaling requests. And finally, you get a more of a taste of that because I'm bringing you Thrag from the Invincible verse comics versus MCU high-end Iron Man. If you like content like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, hit the notification bell so you don't miss videos. And if you really love my content, check out the membership deal I got going on, 80% off. The main membership on YouTube that's usually up for like 50 plus. Currently giving it for 10 via Cash App or PayPal. Just comment in the comment section if you're interested. I'll give you all the details. You can add me on Discord. We can talk about it, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I really want to get into this video because it's got some good stuff. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a banger. So let's begin. First off, let's start with Iron Man high-end MCU. Obviously using high-end because Thrag is not weak. Now, first, let's scale some of the high-end scaling stuff needed for MCU movieverse and how it impacts Stark's scaling. First, Power Stone. Thanos used this a lot in a battle with Tony Stark. This stone, when given access to the totality of the limitless universe, can actually weaponize the universal level of power within it. Within all stones, it's not just universal. However, Thanos, without the stone, is strong enough to hurt and nearly kill Thor, who can tank neutron stars for extended time, which I'll explain later. Obviously, it really hurt him, but it was extended time. Stark withstood several Power Stone Thanos strikes and blasts. Keep that in mind. Thanos also had access to some of the other stones. It's fair to assume the Power Stone was using some of their power as well, since that is its core function. Now, I am going to further solidify this case later in the video, so just enjoy as we continue to build upon the case of high-end Iron Man scaling. Said Thanos, the one with the stones in this battle on Titan, could resist black holes and toss them around with the Space Stone. This power was accompanying the Power Stone in the fight with Stark. Thanos also tore apart a moon with it mid-fight. Now let's talk about another one in the mix, Space Stone. Besides ripping apart the moon, which it's famous for, we know from accompanying media to the movie like the comics that the space, and I'm not talking about 616 comics, I'm talking about MCU. Yeah, I don't want people getting it mixed up. MCU does have its own canon line of comics. Thus, with all this information, the Power Stone, lowballed, like horrifically lowballed, is using planetary energy and is planetary on top of what it already has, on top of base Thanos' own attack potency. The fact Iron Man brawled with him, when you consider the calcs, or not really calcs, just how it stacks up in terms of power scaling, absolutely insane because it all comes together due to the device he's using. Also, the Space Stone does casually manipulate and control black holes. I do believe power should be considered here, not just as hacks. The stone has to keep black holes in place, thus you gotta use power. We know it is a black hole because the movie transcript calls it that. It literally says it in the movie script. Arguing about it at this point is just wild to me. In an art guide for Guardians of the Galaxy, it is stated that the stone's power originates from the original pillar celestial beings of the MCU. Each one, including Eternity, is stated to casually have universal plus levels of power. Each stone has bare minimum 1 out of the 6 power of 4 beings who are universal plus each. So, given that, with the way it splits up, it's kind of weird numbers, sure. You know, it's 6 stones, you know, you split the power into 6, but each being that's powering these 6 stones, the 4 of them, are uni plus. So when you break it down like that, damn near gets close to almost universal per stone, and it makes sense with some further scaling, but even going galaxy, multi-galaxy off that is perfectly fine when you want to go for like high-end individual stones. And it makes sense with the stuff I'm about to present later. Marvel data book itself states that the stones give limitless power to the user. This further backs up the potential of multiple stones being universal and even further. This late in the game, all the heavy hitters like Thor, Hulk, Iron Man, and Thanos scale well above earlier editions of Thor. The earlier Thor, like movie 1 Thor, was capable of breaking a device that was so powerful. When broken, it released energy throughout multiple universes in the space beyond the realms themselves. This just shows how slept on high-end MCU is, because movie 1 Thor only gets stronger throughout the MCU. For Thor, tanking a neutron star, which we gotta revisit to solidify this scaling, this is wild based on real science and real observations of these neutron stars. Said stars have more power than 1 billion times 1 billion suns. It is theorized 3D mass, if put near a neutron star, would be reduced to 2D. Earth would get eradicated on a molecular level. Random pop from neutron stars are felt on energy readings galaxies away. Billions of times the energy of suns. To call this feat of surviving the full force of a neutron star anything less than massively above planetary is comedy. 2 neutron stars in the real world crashing sent energy throughout the observable universe, by the way. How the full force of half of that is only multi-continental according to the calcs I've heard of for the star feat, it's gold. It's comedy gold. It makes sense that this energy was star plus or even beyond that, because to survive the blast for Thor, that's the energy we're considering, by the way, this energy is used to combat a device that can wield universe plus levels of power in the stones. So yeah, to have the power to forge something to do that, it makes sense that that power that was hitting Thor is that strong. Even mid-tiers like Thor 1 Thor in speed can blitz past black holes. It makes sense later on why black holes are fodder to the higher end characters. To escape a black hole, you have to be FTL, and Thor 1 easily did so, saving Loki in the process. Iron Man also brawled with this Thor and did fine. Even fodder Iron Man has damn FTL plus, planet plus level arguments. Although he didn't hurt Thor, so probably not for AP, but he did react and brawl a bit. If an anti-MCU scaler really annoys you, ask them why fodder sorcerers can casually tear apart space-time and can even weaponize shattered shards of 4D space-time. They don't come close to peak Iron Man. Also, the stones can neg Dormammu, who is on a conquest to consume infinite universes, which are limitless themselves. Dormammu himself is extra-dimensional in nature. Stone scale 2 and arguably above. Stark brawled with a Thanos who was using several stones. Do you get the point about the high-end scaling? Like, it should be obvious by now. Now, in the Stark vs. Thanos fight, it's stated and it's widely thought that Thanos held back on Tony. But what does that mean? He was still scrapping Tony using the Power Stone, which had access to 3 close-by channeled stones. He was still trying to literally kill Tony. When he had Tony down on the ground, he had all 4 stones ready to blast. He believed that Tony needed 4 stones worth of energy and power. So assuming the Power Stone was channeling the other stones during the fight is completely fair. Finally, the last thing I want to touch on is the toughness and resiliency of Stark. Besides the tech, beyond all that, let's talk about it. While yes, he did make the final snap in Endgame, it was more so with the effect of a tired pull of the trigger, you know, like long day, finish the war, pull the trigger type deal. It wasn't, to me, a true testament to who Iron Man is as a hero. I believe the fight on Titan was what did so beautifully. One line Thanos said to Stark was he was not the only one cursed with knowledge. I think this is important for Stark's character. He really is cursed with knowledge. He carries the burden of death that comes with war. He has been shown the future. a wasteland of death where he failed everyone he loved. He also bore the knowledge of his foe, a mad mutant chasing godhood with already 4 stones capable of tearing apart the universe as we know it. Iron Man stood alone with 100% cursed knowledge of all this. He had no way of winning. The man of numbers was all out of numbers. Thanos knew this as well. Instead of doing what any sensible human would do, which is run or fold, Stark bit down and threw down his shield, welcoming the incoming imminence of his death. At that point, Stark proved he had toughness and spirit beyond the norm. If you come looking to fight Tony Stark, you better come ready to literally tear the universe apart. Luckily, he's fighting someone that's crazy as hell and willing to do that today in the form of Thrag. So, let's talk about Thrag. For those that like the Invincible verse, the show, I haven't seen the show yet, but I love the comics, and you definitely need to check them out if you haven't yet. This is going to be coming from the comics. Now, Thrag showed up and was the OG strongest of the Viltrumites, right? Like, he is the goat among goats. He's the strongest among them. And he one-shot and kills Oliver, who is Invincible's brother. It was horrible and disrespectful, but also comedy because Thrag's a goon, and you know how I feel about goons. Now, Thrag, even off-rip, is so formidable and has such a potent reputation that Conquest himself fears him. Conquest nearly killed Invincible in their fight. If you haven't seen Invincible scaling or heard about Conquest yet, please go check out my past video on him, if you don't mind. After this, by the way. Do it after this. Now, after tanking the explosion of his home world, he then one-shot the traitor Viltrumite by ripping off his head and causing, the death of his people. He then, in a clash later on when he showed up to Earth, blitzed past Omni-Man and Alan the Alien to begin an assault on Invincible. This occurred because he, of course, killed Mark's brother. Now, it should be no surprise that he kind of bullied them, because as you'll see as we continue with his section, he does this quite often. Now, Thrag also manhandled Omni-Man and one-shot Battle Beast, got him out the way, calling him a nuisance at his best. Battle Beast being a being who would clash with Thrag later on, which we'll discuss later. Omni-Man, when this ass-kicking for everybody is going on, states they cannot beat Thrag. The reason for this is because Thrag has been trained in all forms of combat since birth. This is simply what he was built to do. Then we see Thrag basically pop up and say, yeah, Loki, you're right, and pierce through Omni-Man, bullying Omni-Man. I mean, just completely tearing him apart. Now, like, even looking back at other stuff, we see examples like Invincible had visions of Earth being decimated and his girlfriend dying. All this stuff drove him to attack Thrag, which did zero damage, not really able to do anything. Thrag's really able to take up an established position on Earth because he basically says, yo, either I am who I want to be or Earth dies, and there's nothing they can really do about it. Alan the Alien, who when we first are introduced to him is capable of resisting the gravitational force of a star, states he doesn't even dare piss off Thrag because Thrag's a goon who can casually one-shot his ass. We also see Thrag casually tank multiple attacks from a beast that was capable of one-shotting a being that stated he absorbs universes and dimensions, and this beast actually broke its teeth trying to bite Thrag. Big mistake, absolute embarrassment. Together, later on with Battle Beast, we see that Thrag was able to defeat a swarm of the Rognar. The Rognar are beings that are capable of being stronger than even the Viltrumites, and that if the Viltrumites fought them fair and square, they would actually probably beat the Viltrumites. After days of battle, after the war with the Rognars, we see Thrag finally kill, beat, dismantled, it's horrible, it's bloody, destroys Battle Beast. And then after that, he cuts him up and wears Battle Beast as a Gucci mink robe and cape. Later on, of course, Thrag meets his end in a final clash with Invincible. I won't spoil that too much. But anyways, that is the story of Thrag, the dominant combat god of the Viltrumites. Now, if these two, Iron Man and Thrag, were to like clash, just go all out, who do I favor? So, I think Iron Man definitely has the power, ability, and tech, especially with his self-healing armor, to at least early on definitely keep up with Thrag, even injure him. But Thrag himself, I believe, is too vicious, too fast, because Omni-Man, who just casually gets blitzed by a not serious Thrag, is capable of flying across star systems, like entire star systems, relatively quickly in one breath, okay? And he can also fly 4 to 10 light years and within a breath, it was stated at that point to only be a couple days of travel at most, okay? So with those kind of speeds, Thrag casually blitzing that, I definitely feel like he's faster than MCU Iron Man, even high end. He should be faster. He's going to tag him more. He's going to be looking to kill. Eventually going to wear down Iron Man. We've seen Thrag's able to fight at peak power for days on end. Should be able to outlast, outdamage, and beat Iron Man. But Iron Man is not going down without a fight. Definitely skilled enough, smart enough to hang with him. But then again, in combat, Thrag knows all forms of combat. So he is more combatively skilled, whereas when I speak on skill for Iron Man, I'm more so talking about his savvy, his intelligence to use tech to create distance, all that stuff. But in terms of actual combat, Thrag's superior, and in the end, I favor Thrag beating high-end Iron Man. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this video, if you want more cosmology videos on the MCU and scaling on that, you got to show it a lot of love, because I don't like arguing with MCU scalers. They get really annoying. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. It's been your boy YFV, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.